Yeah, hi. For this meeting, we're here on Saturday, 25th of July. Only Fenny turned up, so we agreed what we would do. We're very close to the end of the Ratana Sutta. We're on verse 14, and then there is, so to speak, the closing off verses 15, 16, and 17 at the end, which are material pretty much identical to the opening verses. So what Fenny and I decided we would do, we will hold this session. It's being recorded for the benefit of all those who want to watch it. So we'll just finish off the Ratana Sutta and wind up there. So as usual, I will read it without the text up, and then I'll read it to you with the text on the screen. This is Ratana Sutta, verse 14. Khinam Puranam Navanati Sambhavam Virattachittayatike Bhavasming Te Khina Bija Avirulha Chanda Nibbanti Dhira Yathayam Padipo Idampi Sanghe Ratanam Panitam Etena Satchena Suvattihotu. So I'll share screen for you. Screen one, share. Penny, can you just confirm, is the text now up on the shared screen?
Yep, it's there.
Okay, thanks. Yeah,
One,
I wasn't quite sure if it had worked at my end.
I have one little question already. I
Please.
see we have that wonderful long L in our virul, whatever it is, which doesn't occur very often, does it?
Avirul Chanda, that
Yeah.
one where the
Yeah,
arrow is now.
it's
It
lovely to see it like an old friend.
it doesn't occur very often. I will explain it as we go along, but thanks for pointing it out, Finny. I'll give a little bit of extra attention to it.
I'll be quiet.
Right, I'll do that. So I'll read it once more with text up and now a little bit enlarged. Here we are. Keenam Puranam Navanati Sambhavam Virattachitayatike Bhavasming Te Khina Bija Avirulhi Chanda Nibbanti Dhira Yathayam Padipo Idampi Sanghe Ratanam Panitang Etena Satchena Suvattihutu. So Kina, note it's got a subdotted N because in Sanskrit it is Kina. It's from the root. I've done a note on it, which I refer you to. I've translated here as destroyed. That's not the best translation. A better translation, Kina, Kshiate, Kiati in Pali, is more the idea of kind of wasting away, running out, being exhausted, becoming spent. That's more. It's not kind of the word isn't appropriate for a sudden destruction. So destroyed, like to add on something like it is, is exhausted and becomes spent. The word is sometimes used, for example, of a trickle of water in the desert, kiate, and it kind of trickles in, it evaporates, melt, sinks into the sand. We have the expression ayu, meaning one's life, one's length of life. Ayu kiati, one's life wastes away in the sense that you're growing older and older, and the length of time you have is running out, and it's going to be it will ultimately run out. So here, kinam puranam. So it's not so much the old is destroyed; it's the old has become exhausted, has wasted away. This suggests it's done by the gradual purification of the self by bhavana, by, for example, most prominently, by the combating of the hindrances and the defilements. So, an ongoing battle that you ultimately, hopefully, will win. And that is the meaning of the old now is wasted away. Navanati Sambhavam. Literally, there is no new birth or no new kind of coming to be, no new birth in a human body. The word Sambhava, meaning birth, bhava on its own in being or coming into being. Sambhava is like a completed coming into being, say from conception, the process of being born and then being born. So the Sambhava is like the completed process. We have a new being who has been born. This word Sambhava normally is masculine, and this is the only place I can think of offhand that I've seen it used as a neuter. In Sanskrit, I don't think you'd ever find it as a neuter. Pali, as we know, tends to be a little more fluid about these things. So, for this one, Nava Nati Sambhavam, I would have expected to see Navo Nati Sambhavo, using Sambhavo as a masculine, and having this adjective Nava, of course, cognate with our word new in the Latin novus. That I would have expected to see a new birth, Navo Sambhavo. So there's a double irregularity in this verse. Firstly, that we see Sambhavam as a neuter. And secondly, you will say, hang on, why is this adjective, which is a neuter adjective now, why isn't it navam, not navo, not nava? The answer is poetic license. You would not find this in prose. If this were written in prose, it would undoubtedly have a final M, some dotted M. So it would be navanati some bhavang. You would find. So there's just a bit of an irregularity in the verse. Virata chitta ayatike bhavasaming. There's a full stop there, which is inappropriate. I will delete it. So their minds are without desire, without passion, dispassionate, virata. Virata chitta, with chittas virata, with their chittas become free of raga, passion. Therefore, they have become dispassionate. They're freed of clinging to it or wanting it. Who is te? So, te, those people, te, virata chitta, with minds free of passion. Note that this word chitta is on its own, as a noun, it's a neuter, singular chittang, plural chittani, a regular neuter noun. Here it is the final member of a compound adjective. Therefore, the chitta ceases to be a neuter noun and becomes simply the final element of an adjective ending in a short a, which now declines and behaves like any other adjective. So it makes its nominative masculine plural, to agree with te, masculine plural, they are virata chitta, they of freed minds. So their minds have become dispassionate, ayatike bhavasaming, for a future being or a future coming into being. Wherever you have an emotion or a desire felt towards something, a desire for something, anger towards something, the person or thing towards which that desire or anger is felt is almost invariably put in the locative, which is why we have the locative here. They are virata chitta, they are of dispassionate minds towards or with regard to or for a future becoming. So this is the locative ending a here, and this is the alternative locative ending bhavasmim. It could equally have been ayatikasmim bhave or ayatikasmim bhavasmim or ayatike bhave. They would all have exactly the same meaning. These are just alternative forms of the locative with no distinction of meaning. So this ayatike, ayati, yati goes, ayati comes, ayatika just means that which is to come. So it means future. So they are virate chitta was dispassionate chittas towards a future existence. Te kina bija avirul chanda. Te, they, kina bija. This is the same kina that we saw in the first line. So kinam puranam, the old is exhausted, spent, gone, wasted away. And these are now kina bija. The word bija means a seed. So they are kina bija. Their seed, the seeds is exhausted. In other words, this plant, you might say, this plant that self-seeds for future existence, the production of seed from this plant is exhausted. Their seeds are exhausted. The seeds within them, the seeds of desire for a future existence, are exhausted. The kina bija. And bija, I think it's a neuter noun, but it's exactly the same story as chitta. Bija now here is the final member of a compound adjective. It therefore behaves like an adjective ending in a short a, behaves, declines, therefore it agrees here with the noun here, the pronoun that it qualifies, they are exhausted seeded. In other words, the seed of becoming within them is exhausted. Avirul hichanda. Avirulhi, okay, they are not desiring growth. I'll explain this word now. Chanda means a desire. Chanda is a morally neutral word. You can have good desires and bad desires, and you can have a strong desire to lead the holy life. So a chanda, as I say, of itself is a morally neutral word. What gives its moral tone is where the chanda is directed. I mean, those who are watching this will have a chanda for learning Pali. So it's a wholesome desire. But here it seems they are destroying seeds. Here they do not have any growth. Sorry, they do not have any desire for growth. Virudha means further growth within a human existence is how I interpret that. So let me just explain the form of this word avirulhi chanda. I will call up the iPad and write the word here. And again, the chanda here, because as with the previous two compound adjectives we've discussed, chanda here, with chanda on its own as a noun, here it's the final member of an adjectival compound. So virulhi chanda, without the virulhi chanda, or in masculine singular virulhi chando, would mean one who has a desire for growth, that is, continuing growth as a human being. The root is ruh, same in Sanskrit and Pali. So the root is ruh, meaning to grow. Um, Many roots that have a short vowel followed by an H, they make their past participle um, by lengthening the vowel and changing the H to a D with subdotted D and H. We see it, for example, oh, sorry, try and get my pen working again. Here we are. We see it, for example, in our well-known word mu, meaning to be deluded, from which we get the moha, lobha, dosa, moha, desire, hostility or hatred, and moha, delusion. It makes its past participle in Sanskrit as mudha. So we lengthen the vowel. It's a little bit irregular the way it's formed, but so many of them do it. You can think of it as a subclass of past participles. So lengthen the vowel, change the h to a subdotted d and then h. So mudha. So that in Sanskrit it becomes mudha, but da. You very often find that where a d or a d in Sanskrit appears between, in the Sanskrit word, appears between vowels, as here mudha, it will often just flip over to become a subdotted L in Pali. Mulha. It's effectively the same word. Note that in Vedic, exactly the same phenomenon occurs, not in classical Sanskrit. If you go back to Vedic, wherever you get a d between vowels, it becomes a l, a subdotted l. And so what we're seeing in Pali is not so much a departure from classical Sanskrit, but rather a retention of the old Vedic form of doing it. We see it, for example, in the very first line of the Rig Veda. We have the root id, meaning to quite a rare. Well, you find it in Vedic. You don't find it in Pali. The root id, meaning to worship or to praise. It is an atmanepada, so the I praise, not idami, but ide. But you'll find if you look at the Rig Veda, the very first line, 111 of the Rig Veda, it is in classical Sanskrit, it would be ide, but in the Veda, ile. Agnamile purohitam, it goes ile. So that is just the phenomenon of a d between vowels becomes a l. Incidentally, you find the same phenomenon, a very, very similar phenomenon, I should say, in modern Hindi, where, for example, the Sanskrit mudha, mood, it becomes a subdotted r in Hindi. So in Hindi, mudha becomes mood, it retroflex r uh, and aspirated as well. So in fact, it would be mudha, but the final a isn't pronounced in Hindi, so mood. So we see that phenomenon of the d flipping to a l or r from Vedic right through to modern Hindi. It's just a phonetic flip that occurred. So hopefully that will explain this subdotted L here. That subdotted L incidentally had become a subdotted R in Hindi, but it's retained in Marathi among the modern languages of northern India. Now, so rudha and in Pali, rulha. As we know, many verbal nouns can be formed by, instead of the ta of the past participle, you put on a t. So here we've got ruh plus ta becomes, as I was explaining, rudha, and ruh plus t would become rudhi, just meaning growth, which in Pali gives us ruli, which is exactly what we see in this verse. And the V here, um, these as our usual, what we commonly call the separative prefix. The idea is it doesn't really change the meaning in this particular case. It's viruli, like growing out, expanding, padding out, filling out. That's the idea of the V here. So viruli chanda. So if you are okay, viruli growth, viruli chanda is a compound adjective meaning growth desiring, meaning having a desire to grow, desirous of growing, and this at the beginning is simply the negating that negates the entire compound. So growth desiring, non-growth desiring, in other words, not having a desire for growth. So dhira, the wise ones, from our root dhi, meaning which just means the mind. And it's an extended root is the dhya, from which we get the word dhyana, Pali jhana, as in the meditative absorption. So from that same root, the ordinary meaning is just mind. And by extension, intelligence. So dhira means a person of mind, therefore, by extension, an intelligent or a wise person. We have, for example, there's a monk in Thailand who regularly visits us in Manchester. Sudhira, one of good intelligence. So here, so the wise ones, nibbanti. We all know the word nibbana, Sanskrit nirvana. This is just which is the verbal noun from nirva, to blow out or to be blown out. So nibbanti is just the verb form of nibbana, third person plural. So they are extinguished. Yatha ayam padipo. So the yatha, we have yatha tata, just as so, and the word yatha used on its own here means as or just like. So yatha ayam padipo, just like this lamp. So the suggestion here may be that there would be a lamp being used in the ceremony, which is being extinguished. So these te, those people, kina bija, with seed extinguished, aviruli chanda, not desirous of growth, meaning further human growth, nibbanti, they are extinguished. Who are te dira, those wise ones are extinguished, nibbanti, yatha ayam padipo, just like this lamp. Idam visanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena subatti hotu. And this is the same refrain that we've had before in this verse. So the idampi, this also is the exquisite padmanitam, exquisite jewel in the Sangha, the jewel to be found in the Sangha, meaning the value that the Sangha has for us. etena satchena suvattihutu. By this truth, may there be well-being. Just check there's nothing else to be dealt with here. Oh. So I'll read it through once more. Khinam Puranam Navanati Sambhavang Virata Chitta Yatike Bhavasaming Te Khina Bija Avirul Chanda Nibbanti Dhira Yathayam Padipo Idampi Sanghe Ratanam Panitang Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu. So we'll now deal with the last three verses. They are almost identical, but for, okay. The first line of verse 15 is the same as the first line of the first verse of the entire sutta, which we've done in detail. So, Yani the bhutani samagattani bhummani va yani va antalike Tathagatan deva manussa pujitam buddhang namassama suvattihutu. So the first line is regarded as being as if it's in the vocative. It is an imprecation, it is a call to summon or to alert any beings, any bhutani who are assembled here. Yani bhutani, whichever beings, idha, here, samagatani, are assembled. Bhumaniva, yaniva, antalike. The bhumani, that's the bhumya in Sanskrit, would mean earth spirits. Bhumaniva, yaniva, antalike. Earth spirits, yaniva, or those who are antalike, in the sky. Namassama, we venerate, we revere. Tathagatam, the Tathagata, the Deva Manusa Pujitam, see here where they've broken down the word, the Pujita, worshipped, literally God-man worshipped, means worshipped by gods and humans. The Tathagata, it's in the accusative, of course, because it's the object of the verb namassama. We venerate, pay homage to. So namassama, we pay homage to the Tathagata, Deva Manusa Pujita, who is worshipped by gods and humans. So God-human worshipped by gods and humans. Buddham, the Buddha. Suvattihutu, may there be well-being. This namassama, it has the same meaning as namama in the first person singular. Also we know well the namami, I worship, I venerate. This is, as I've explained it here, it's a denominative verb formed from a noun. Okay, so root nam, verbal noun, nam make the regular namami, namasi, namati. It makes a verbal noun, namas, which in Pali, of course, becomes namo. Namas, we know as the Hindu, the modern Indian greeting, namaste, homage to thee. This is now a verb, namassami, is formed off the back of the noun. So you take the root nam, make a noun out of it, namas, now turn that noun into what's known as a denominative verb, meaning a verb made off a noun rather than off a root. And it's a class 6 verb. So in Sanskrit, what happens is all you do is add a ya. So namasyati, namasyati, which by regular phonetic mutation becomes namassati. I do not detect, and I'm pretty sure there is no difference between namami and namasami, namati, namasati. They're just alternative ways of saying exactly the same thing. We have in one of our opening chants at many of our ceremonies, Arhang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Abhivademi is one word for to revere or venerate. And then the next line goes, Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamman Namasami. And that's the same denominative verb used here. And then the third line, Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghan Namami. So there we get Namasami and Namami used in adjacent lines. As I say, no distinction of meaning. Um, in this line now, line 16, it's the same except we have Dhammang instead of Buddhang, and in the third line, Sangham instead of Buddhang. So, Yani the Bhutani Samagatani Bhummani va Yani va Antalikhe Tathagatan Deva Manusa Pujitam Dhammam Namassama Suvattihutu. So, um, I've just noticed this actually. This makes perfect sense. Namasama, we revere, we worship. The Tathagata, Deva Manusa Pujitam, worshipped by gods and humans, Buddham, the Buddha. So here, we is it that we worship the Tathagata Deva Manusa, the Tathagatam is only ever used in specifically in reference to the Buddha, so I'm actually slightly puzzled how it fits in this line. I've just spotted this actually. So Deva Manusa Pujitam Dhamman Namasama, that's clear enough. That we pay homage to the Dhamma, which is worshipped by gods and men, and similarly Tathagatam Deva Manusa Pujitam Sangham Namasama, the same in the third line. But where does the Tathagatam fit in? I'm actually going to, for completeness here, I'm just going to see what Bhikkhu Bodhi says. I'll be right with you. At any moment. Oh, okay. I stand corrected. I've learned something new here because if Bhikkhu Bodhi is right, which I do not for a moment doubt, let's get back to where we were. So the Tathagata, Bhikkhu Bodhi translates this as we paid homage to the thus gone Dhamma. So, in other words, here, Bhikkhu Bodhi is interpreting this as an adjective qualifying the Dhamma, the Tathagata Dhamma, the thus gone Dhamma, which I do not recall I've ever seen the word Tathagata used otherwise than as a noun denoting the Buddha himself. Okay, here we are. We are seeing it, if Bhikkhu Bodhi is right, as an adjective qualifying Dhamma, that the Tathagata Dhamma, the thus gone Dhamma, worshipped by gods and men. Is I remain puzzled by this. If I discover more, I will come back to you in the future. But I'm puzzled by seeing Tathagata used as an adjective qualifying in verse 16 the Dhamma and in verse 17 qualifying the Satsanga. So just read through verse 17. So Yani de Bhutani Samagatani Bhummani Vayani Va Antalikhe Tathagatan Deva Manusa Pujitang Sanghan Namasama Suvatti Hutu. And of course, the way it's written in the original is Hututi. So the T meaning end of quote. This is the end of the sutta. And as usual, the Hutu on its own, Hutu with a short U, but here because it's rounded off with the unquote E, the preceding vowel is lengthened. No grammatical effect, it's just a phonetic feature. If you put T at the end of a word and a short vowel, that vowel lengthens. So this brings us then to the end of the Ratana Sutta. And we'll just have it as a short session today. It's just me and Fenny here. So I will wind up with this then. So we've reached the end of the Ratana Sutta. That is the end now. This will be the last meeting we'll have in connection with the Samatha chanting book in the current term. This coming Tuesday we'll be meeting for our final session of the academic year on the Ger and Karunatillaka. All right, Fenny, so we can wind up there. If you and I will bid you farewell.
Are you going to stop the recording?
I am going to stop the recording. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll stop the recording now. Okay, thank you very much then, Fenny. And,
Thank you very much. Very enlightening, and I'm glad I came. It was just what I needed after a very busy day. So
I'm glad it has helped to refresh your spirit then, Fenny. I'm glad somebody turned up. At least we've rounded this off nicely.
Glad I did, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you then, Fenny. Okay, see you then. Goodbye. Bye.